feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer.
I don't care what you think about what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the Cowboys.
Call this college ruled.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. Dom and Chris here, and we're just a couple of Tucson comics who like sports and recording down here at Engle Studio downtown for all of your recording needs. Before we begin, as always, if you're interested in our content and you like what we're doing, please smash that like button on these videos and give us a subscribe on not only YouTube, but all our social media platforms. I feel like that's a good decision. And hey, any suggestions you have for the show, good or bad, send them our way.
Yeah, we're releasing 2 episodes a week, so we would love your input, comments, likes, subscribes. And who do we got going this week?
Today we're back on the hardwood with a player from when we watch basketball.
And a story that I feel like I didn't know.
Amazing story, by the way.
I love it. We're talking John Starks, one of the... here's something, and I'm going to jump right into it, was the shooting guard position in this era almost overblown because of all of the great shooting guards? Because
exactly.
He really was one of the guys that you look at, you're like, oh yeah, he was a superstar.
He was
in this league.
Great player, a scrappy player, which we'll get into, someone who had to scratch and claw his way into the NBA.
Yep.
Emerged as a great player on some great teams and had an entertaining career, shall we say.
Definitely.
So let's begin here. John Lavelle Starks, born August 10th, 1965 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And this is where he spends pretty much every year of his life up until the NBA, I would say, the state of Oklahoma.
The state of Oklahoma, we'll see he bounces around a little, but the thing that right off of the bat, I just almost couldn't believe is that he played 1 year of high school basketball. 1 year,
only one season, which is like, he doesn't take, and you'll see this throughout his basketball career, he does not take a, traditional path. A traditional path to great things in the NBA.
No, definitely not. You almost never see anybody take the path. I mean, literally 1 year of high school basketball.
Central High School, yeah.
And then he goes to college not even thinking about basketball, really.
No, he goes to Rogers State College in Oklahoma, and unlike David Robinson, who's 7 feet and plays maybe, 1 or 2 years of high school basketball, you're really not going to get noticed as a shooting guard just north of 6 feet at this point.
Yeah, and he's 6'1", 6'2", or whatever he is at this point, and he has a little bit of trouble right off of the bat.
Well, he's on the taxi squad on the basketball team, which is a fancy way of saying you're a dummy-o in practice.
Yeah.
You know? He doesn't even suit up for game days, watches him in the stands, almost like a red shirt, but you're like...
Almost like a Rudy.
Yeah.
And it was crazy when they...
Almost like a Rudy, but not a dirty liar like Rudy. Dirty liar.
Hoisted him up on their shoulders in his dreams because that never happened.
Janet Reno, Will Ferrell, like, God, you're such a liar. Any hoodles, back to Starks. He's expelled in 1984 from Rogers State.
Yep. He ended up stealing a boombox from another student, so I think he was just trying to punk some guy.
Well, he was doing it out of retaliation for the kid breaking into his dorm room.
Yeah.
So he steals the boombox, and then is forced to leave Rogers State and is forced to go to jail during the next year's spring break and pay restitution for the damages.
5 days in jail. The boombox was a serious situation at that time, so he has a new college.
Yeah.
Northern Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. He makes the team, which is great.
Makes the team, and he's actually showing promise. So this is the thing I want to say is he literally has less than 2 years of organized basketball.
Which is crazy. And yet he's still very good, but very raw.
But very, very raw. And that's what they were saying. And then he gets busted for...
A little bit of cannabis.
Which is,
I remember this era. It's called the 80s. You're supposed to say no, like Nancy Reagan said. But you know what? Those were the men of their time, Chris.
I saw
Men of their
something
time.
that was interesting. This is in Oklahoma, and they said he was lucky that they didn't press charges, and the only thing they did was kick him out.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that is pretty lucky. I mean, he was black. He got busted with weed.
Graham will get you 15, bro.
I'm just saying, like, it was one of those where literally they were just like, you just need to leave college. And so he ends up, this is probably the low point in his life.
Yeah. I figure like when he's in jail on spring break, it just reminded me of MTV where it's like, I'm Carson Daly at Oklahoma County Jail. Welcome to spring break.
How's your spring break going? It's all right. I'm just, you know.
Oh, God. So he averaged 11 points a game there at Northern Oklahoma College before the unpleasantness. And you're right. He's lucky to get out.
Yeah.
Just like with a slap on the wrist, like, hey, we're not going to send you to jail. You just can't stay here.
Yes.
So at that point in the summer of 1986, he's working at a Safeway. This is almost Kurt Warner-esque. This is Kurt Warner before Kurt Warner.
Working for $3.50, bagging groceries.
Oh, gosh.
And this is what I mean. I feel like it's the low point in his life, and basketball isn't even a thought.
No.
He ends up going to, where does he go?
Tulsa
To
Junior College.
And what on his mind isn't basketball, but it's business.
Yeah, because he's studying business at this point. He's like, I just don't want to work at Safeway.
Yes.
Like, I enjoy playing basketball. I'll be at the gym whenever I can, but like, I just don't want to make $3.50 an hour. So while he's playing intramural basketball, he has a stroke of luck where future head coach of Oklahoma Junior College saw him, and he played for him for a season. So he gets another year out of playing basketball.
And he saw his potential. So that's the thing, is he sees him just in the gym, and he's like, oh, this is a real shooting guard that's just like you said, completely raw. And he starts to mold him, and he ends up getting a scholarship to Oklahoma State. And that's what a lot of these junior colleges do, is they mold these raw talents that really can't go to these four-year bigger colleges, and then they're like, oh, okay, he's ready.
But, it's usually guys who can't test out.
I was going to say that,
guys
yes.
who can't make the grades. Starks is completely different.
Yes.
It's completely different to the point where he's just like, all this messed up shit happened in my life, some of which is my fault, some of it isn't. Only played one season of high school basketball, but he makes it to a very good Big 8 school at the time in Oklahoma State in 87, 88, and plays a single season there. So, God, 4 different schools. You will never see that again.
It's such a crazy path to, when you think about it, just bouncing around Oklahoma, and really he gets lucky with not getting busted for the weed, and then gets really lucky because he's going to this junior college and not even thinking about basketball, and somebody's like, oh, no, you can play at that next level.
Yeah, you can play definitely D1 and, big conference D1 basketball. So he goes and shows out, and although he's not drafted by anybody, he's signed by the Golden State Warriors. And Chris Mullin, remember that episode, everybody? This is kind of that era where they're kind of in a lull but doing okay.
Well, it's interesting because they also just drafted, their number one draft pick was Mitch Richmond.
Hall of Famer.
And
Run TMC.
Which somebody was talking about, looking back, they were like, why would you get rid of Starks at this? And the way that it happened was they signed him for a year rookie contract, and he gets injured towards the end of the season, and they kind of were like...
Well, what happens is Don Nelson, the head coach, really doesn't like him. You've already invested so much in the M of Run TMC, who wins Rookie of the Year that year. Richmond wins Rookie of the Year. So Starks,
and he's without a doubt their starter.
Yeah.
That's what people were saying, was just like, why don't we have him as our
valuable
backup?
depth piece,
Yes.
which he eventually becomes later in his career.
And you're right, with Don Nelson having something against just John Starks.
Starks rubs people the wrong way.
I don't know
for
what
whatever reason. There's just there are some people who we'll get into later with a certain amount of energy who don't like John Starks very
true.
much.
It's very true.
So he's limited to only 36 games as a rookie in 88-89, only 8.8 minutes a game and 4.1 points a game. And the Warriors kind of don't want anything to do with him, especially after the injury. So in 89-90, this is where the path keeps getting weirder. He goes to the CBA and the Cedar Rapids Silver Bullets.
Yep.
I love these minor league team names, Chris.
And he plays an entire year for them.
Mm-hmm.
Does okay, but this is what I found actually really interesting is he doesn't blow up the stat sheets whatsoever on the Silver Bullets.
No, and in 1991, in the WBL to the Memphis Rockers, it's not like he's just completely out and out dominating.
Yes,
but
he's a solid shooting guard.
He's a solid shooting guard, and there are certain coaches who see things in him and take a kind of a shine to Mr. Starks.
That's right. So he ends up getting a tryout for the New York Knickerbockers.
Those Knickerbockers.
And with the way these tryout contracts work is if you get injured during your tryout, they can't release you because of that injury.
Exactly.
So he's trying out and he's doing okay. He even said it. He felt like he was doing okay, but might not have made the team.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes up and he tries to
ball
dunk.
out. Yep.
He tries to dunk on my main man, old Patty Ewing. And Patrick Ewing wasn't going to have that shit.
He went full Monstars on him.
He flat out sent him back and injured him, essentially.
Yeah, which in a weird way, and Starks has even called it his saving grace,
Yep.
helped him because not only was he able to stay on the team and recover his injury, it also kept him around the team.
Well, I'll tell you what was said in the, whatever you want to say, the front office. And they said, we got to know who this guy was, John Starks. And then we were like, oh, he has all of this room to improve. And coming back from this injury, they were saying like, he would fit into this new, like, kind of rough and tough.
Well, they're building a
makeup
beast
that
in the East.
that they're making up, and that's what they were saying was just like his personality is going to mesh well with what we're building.
So they're about to get Pat Riley,
Yep.
and the thing is, and they've talked about this before. I think even in that 30 for 30 featuring a certain amount of energy, that when Pat Riley was coaching Showtime. That wasn't who Pat Riley was as a basketball player. Pat Riley was a rough and tumble scrapper,
Yep.
a tough dude.
Sharpen his elbows.
Yep, and he was the type of guy who wanted to, if there was a team built in his image, it was these Knicks teams with Starks, because you already got Patty Ewing. You have, what's his name?
Anthony Mason.
Anthony Maitland, that Norm joke at the ESPYs. But Anthony Mason swears the ESPYs are 18. Charles Oakley they got from Chicago, who was Jordan's old enforcer.
I was going to say, which Jordan never wanted him to go, especially to the Knicks, and it became this fucking
But they needed Bill Cartwright to help, but Oakley fit this team like a glove.
I was going to say, the Bulls were right, but Jordan was almost just like, I don't want him to go onto this...
He will hurt me. He was hurting people who were going to hurt me.
The thinking of this East Coast bad boy Pistons and then the Knicks and then it was just a different NBA.
Men of their time, Chris, in a positive way.
And that's why I feel like Starks actually made it, because he was
scrappy. He was a scrappy motherfucker.
A scrappy defender on the shooting guard position. This is what I brought up earlier.
And he's tall. He's like 6'4", 6'5".
Yes, because he grows a little bit and he becomes 6'5", and he can guard, Michael Jordan, Cheryl Miller's brother, and this is the thing that he said. He goes, I love going up against Mitch Richmond because he felt like,
dude, it's like, you're mine, bitch.
And that's what he said. He was like, that was the type of player he was just like a complete, just like tenacious fucking defender and a good shooter.
And the New York fans loved him for that. They loved these teams for that. Oh, God. So 90-91, he's still coming off the bench, but he's playing a lot more minutes.
Well, he said he attributes a lot of it to Pat showing up because he saw what, like you were saying, the style that they could play.
Yeah, so 19 minutes a game and 7.6 points a game. And then in 91-92... he plays in 82 games off the bench, which he's now a pretty big part of what the Knicks are doing. Has a career-high field goal percentage and 13.9 points a game and 5.4 assists. Granted, they lose in the playoffs that year.
Well, we got to talk about this 92 Eastern Conference Final.
Well, it's 92-93.
92, okay.
Yeah, so 91-92, they lose to the Bull. They get swept by Michael Jordan, ruining people's dreams.
Yep. He beat so many good teams.
What was it? My buddy Corin, who listens to the show all the time, one day out of the blue, he's just like, looking at the dream team, Almost that entire roster was denied a ring by Michael Jordan.
Seriously.
Like,
It's crazy.
Michael Jordan. Granted, the Bulls are a team, but it's still Michael Jordan.
But if you look at all these other teams that are so deep,
Pacers and Knicks and
in the East, and then even in the Jazz and even in the Supersonics, who's supposedly coming back as a franchise.
That would be amazing. Sean Kemp's kids will play on that team. All of them.
I was just going to say the starting 6. They're allowed to.
The 12th man on the bench will be one of Kemp's little kids.
They're allowed to. They're all Kemps.
They're all Kemps. So in 92-93 is a starter, 17.5 points a game, 5.2 assists, and 32.8 three-point field goal percentage. And now they're with Pat Riley, and they are just an absolute beast of a team. In round 1, they take down the Pacers 3-1, a series which saw him headbutt Cheryl Miller's brother.
That's right.
Then they beat Charlotte 4-1 with Grandmama and Muggsy Bogues. And then in the finals, they draw the Bulls.
And
oh boy,
this is one of his probably most iconic moments.
It's
and
great.
This is, like he said, this is something that he brought up. He was just like, I didn't have a lot of posterizing like the opponent. And he goes, I couldn't have dreamt up a better one. And I
He
was like,
drug his balls across Horace Grant's face.
well, and it's great because he also gets Jordan in the picture. So there's just 2 bald heads right there. And he literally dunks over and he
goes baseline, man.
He goes baseline. BJ goes the wrong way. BJ fucking Armstrong and goes right into Ewing. And he takes it and he goes, and I dunked left-handed, which was rare for me. So it was like, he goes, everything about it was like what I literally could have dreamt of, and they end up losing.
Well, this is the thing about this series, though. The Knicks go up 2-0.
Yep.
And this is also the series where the allegations against Jordan come out for gambling.
Gambling, yeah.
And they had the thing where he was spending the night in Atlantic City after Game 2, all night just at the tables. And, well, the Bulls do Chicago Bulls things and ruin New York's chances and win the next 4 in a row.
Well, you really look at it and you're just like, why were we getting Michael Jordan angry?
Or what would no good can come out of it's like Tom Brady. It's the same thing.
No,
Like,
seriously.
you just keep your mouth shut and hope you do everything right.
Send him limos from the other casinos around the area
During the game so that he won't be on the floor
That's
to
right.
beat you. So 93-94, things are looking up for Starks and the Knicks because somebody decides to play baseball.
Yep. And literally, I feel like the entire league was looking around like, all right, it's our year.
Collective sigh of relief. Oh, we have a chance.
8 teams were literally like, we could win this year. The Bulls were not thinking that. They had Pippen's dumbass.
He was complaining about Tony Kukoc taking game-winning shots, which we'll get into.
Oh,
Has he developed so much sand in his vagina over the last 5 years, Scottie Pippen?
Well, Tony Tone will do that to you. Yeah, Scottie Pippen has become a huge jerk. And I don't use that term almost ever because it has to be used appropriately, which he really is.
Some of these interviews, man, geez Louise. But 93-94, Starks averages a career-high 34.9 minutes per game. This is a season where he makes the All-Star team. 19 points a game, 5.9 assists, and 33.5 three-point field goal percentage. And the Knicks are the number 2 seed in the East. And you're thinking, if any year for Patty Ewing to win a title, for Charles Oakley, for John Starks, this is the year.
Charlie Ward
has joined this team now.
That's the thing is they were saying that this was probably their best team for like 40 years. You know what I mean? Like 20 years and then 20 years before.
Since Walt Clyde Frazier took
seriously,
the floor. I mean,
it's not a joke, and that's what they were saying was just like we're going in as that. They said number 2, but they were like, but we feel like favorites.
Yeah. And you have the veteran leadership of stacked veteran roster and young guys like Charlie Ward coming in and not playing for the Giants or Jets because, well, the NFL is stupid in 1993, 1994. So what ends up happening, they beat the Nets 3-1 in the first round. In round 2, they overcome the Bulls in 7 games, which you get that monkey off your back. Granted, Jordan's not there.
Yeah.
And then we get into a fun Eastern Conference Finals.
It's one of these.
Oh, yay.
It's just one of these rivalries that they have to come up organic, and they have to have two players that really hate each other.
Two great players that hate each other.
So we get the Knicks and the Pacers.
Yes, we do. In the Eastern Conference Finals, ready to play those Houston Rockets.
And there's a weird thing I feel like with sports in this time where it was like Indiana was like the white team.
Yeah. Oh, we brought it up on this
So
podcast.
weird.
If fucking Sabonis' kid, if you're a good white player, you just somehow end up on the Pacers like Rick Smits.
They're forced to pick you up in free agency. It's fucking weird.
I guess.
Yeah, Jesus.
I mean, you're just going to be an all-star, but I guess.
And this is, I'll tell you what about this series. It's the type of series that the Knicks wanted to play. It is a very...
Yeah, it's very physical.
Yes.
You're not bringing any of that Cheryl Miller energy into this series.
That's true.
There, Reg. But the Knicks win the first two games at Madison Square Garden. But in Game 3, in the closing seconds, the Knicks end up losing. But Starks is fouled, I think, on a three-point play. And what ends up happening is... Oh, no, that's in the...
That's in the finals.
That's in the finals,
Yeah.
excuse me. But then Game 3, what ends up happening is the Pacers end up winning and make it a series. And a lot of trash talking going back and forth. The Knicks are just bullying the hell out of the Pacers, and we eventually get to a Game 7. Reggie Miller is carrying Indiana in this series.
Very much so. That's something that they were saying was Starks really is a great defender, but to Reggie Miller's credit, he fucking... can shoot
Lights out.
It really is. I mean, even with they have Spike fucking
Lee
on the bench coaching at this point.
He's Pat Riley's unofficial official assistant at this juncture in this series.
But you got to give it up to him because really Reggie made it a Game 7. You know what I mean? A series, but
the Knicks overcome him. They
Knicks,
eventually
yeah.
overcome him. Reggie, I think, misses a shot towards the end of the game, which could have brought Indiana back, but the Knicks end up basically bullying themselves into the finals.
Yes.
They get to the finals to play Hakeem the Dream, and as we
those
brought up
Rockets.
in those episodes, you don't want to face Hakeem in the postseason, especially when if your team has a Hall of Fame center like a David Robinson or a Patrick Ewing, because Hakeem will just be like, nah, son.
Well, and I want to bring up the thing that you brought up earlier. I think it's Game 3, but it's really one of the smarter plays because, Hakeem's basketball IQ is this high. So the Knicks are down by 3.
And Starks shoots a 3 and he's fouled by Hakeem. But the good thing was in the NBA, at least for the Rockets, you don't shoot 3 free throws on a 3-point attempt.
Not until after this year.
Yeah, the following season, they finally instituted that rule, probably because of this.
Yes.
But the Knicks end up losing Game 3, and by Game 4 and 5, which this happened during the OJ car chase of all things.
Yep.
Run, Nordberg, run!
It's this little span of time is so wild.
Dude. Well, it's crazy because after the Knicks win Game 5 to go up 3-2, granted, they're done at Madison Square Garden. They got to go back to Houston. The Rangers just won the Stanley Cup for the first time since before World War II.
So OJ's chase, Rangers just win, and they said the Knicks
Home
were
run
all
race, Arnold Palmer's last golf event.
Arnold Palmer invents the greatest drink ever.
Yes,
he did. It's the greatest. It's really one of the craziest little series of events.
June 17th, 1994, everybody.
We get into Game 6 because I don't want to jump Game 6.
Yeah, Game 6 is super important in
because
this series.
Starks goes off on Game 6.
Yeah, he goes crazy. I mean, if they eventually win Game 6, he's probably the Finals MVP because of this game.
Seriously, though, because I think he has 40... Give me a stat, because I think he has 46.
I didn't write down the stats, but it's 40 plus.
It's 40 plus. Knicks are down 2. It's the end of the game.
Oh, God.
Starks gets what looks to be an open shot. If you look at this when he gets the fucking ball, I'm not even joking. He looks like he has a wide open shot, and then this guy comes he's like getting popcorn, and he literally comes, and Hakeem blocks this 3-point shot that would have literally won this championship, like you said, probably given him the Finals MVP. And instead,
86-84, they end up losing. They go to a Game 7, and it's in Houston. But you're thinking Starks just went off the night before. We need to keep feeding him. And that turned out to be one of Happy Gilmore's all-time backfires.
I hate to say it, and somebody brought this up. They said Hakeem really put the fear in him, and it destroyed him for Game 7.
Hakeem will put the fear into anyone encountering him.
Yes.
That on a basketball court.
Because he goes, let me look because I have it right. He goes 2 for 18, and he goes 1 for 10 in the fourth. He also goes 1 for 11 from behind 3. And if you watch the highlights from this game, he has 6 open threes.
Yeah.
It's not even like...
They're not like they're contested. And if
No.
you're contested and you miss, you just miss. Your team's giving you the ball or like the shot clock's expiring. These are just misses.
These are huge misses.
But they keep, I don't know what it was, if he just had the green light, but they kept giving him the ball in that fourth quarter.
And they said he's a streaky shooter. A lot of the plays were set up for him to get those open threes because it was kind of like an in and out. Like,
Well, yeah, because
not
that
to
was a
be
different
Hakeem
era of
and- yes,
basketball
yes.
where you'd feed it into Ewing, see what he was doing, and then set up shots around the perimeter
Yes.
if he's guarded or double teamed or what have you.
And that was the other thing is they were like, we keep getting open shots. That's I think what was so frustrating.
You almost hear the Curb Your Enthusiasm music in the background.
So he has probably one of his best games, Game 6, and then one of his worst games, Game 7.
And the Knicks lose to the Rockets. And
Hakeem is the dream.
he is the dream, as we brought up in that episode. That man was a unicorn.
Yeah,
is
he
what
was. So we get into 95.
94-95, 15.3 points a game. And this season, Starks becomes the first player in NBA history with 200 threes in a season.
Yep.
Which, hell yeah.
So
Good for you, John I mean, the path that you took to the NBA to get to that, amazing.
He is definitely lighting it up from behind the arc, and that's kind of what this team is set up to be.
Now, even though somebody came back from playing baseball and had to, save a bunch of cartoon characters from aliens and slavery, the Knicks are still the favorite in the East this year.
Yep.
Even with the Orlando Magic being awesome, even with Cheryl Miller energy bringing itself back into the fold, you're thinking the Knicks have got another run in them. The Knicks got another run. The first round, they sweep Atlanta. But in round 2, who do they draw, Chris?
Well, wait, who do they draw in round 2? Is it the Bulls? No, it's the Magic.
No, it's the Pacers.
Oh,
the Magic and Bulls.
I thought this was next year.
No,
I got my notes mixed
No,
up.
they play the Bull because
They
the
play the
Bulls
Pacers.
Magic series
Yes.
is the one where Nick Anderson steals it from 45 Michael Jordan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So they play the Pacers in a rematch.
In a rematch. And this is
I
the bloodlust rises.
I thought this was the next year, and I was thinking like, wait, who are? Yeah. It's man.
It was so interchangeable during this era. It was just one amazing series after another.
Well, and this is what I mean, where it has to be organic, and they have to meet in these playoff situations where these fucking games were just absolutely intense.
There's a level of excitement in that era of NBA basketball that just has not been matched. Even in the aughts, it was different, but nothing would compare to this. Like, at least for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because I was a kid and this was my first exposure to it, but good God, these were fun.
The rivalries, the hatred, the way the way the games played out, they're
Yeah.
just a lot closer and a lot.
Well, game 1, for instance, in this series, the Knicks you're thinking, oh, it's a runaway win in the final seconds at Madison Square Garden. And then Reggie says, don't call me Cheryl. I'm scoring 8 points in the final 9 seconds. Stealing an inbounds pass, shooting threes.
The
Like,
steal and then the step back is one of those iconic moments where you're like, God damn it, Reggie.
you're just like, somebody's not bringing that Cheryl energy in here today. And the Pacers come out awesome. They're up 3-1 in this series. So you're thinking, man, they really eclipsed New York and Starks and everybody else. But to the credit of how tough this team was, top to bottom, Starks, Ewing, Oakley, Mason, the Knicks win games 5 and 6
Yeah.
to force a game 7.
And that's why these series were amazing.
Yeah. And in game 7, again, comes right down to the wire. Patrick Ewing has this open lane in the final seconds where it's an easy layup. It's just an easy layup. It's
almost too easy.
coasting. And you can feel everyone in Indiana's hearts right about to break at that split second. But it rims out. And the Knicks lose. and probably lose their second best chance of winning an NBA title because they would probably have tried to bully the shit out of Shaq and his penis in the next round.
It's hard to see what that matchup would be, but I imagine they would be more physical and beat the Magic. But it's such a weird thing with just like running into the Pacers, who were kind of set up to beat the Knicks because they hated them so much.
Finally, we're at the mountaintop. Oh, goddamn you, Shaq.
Yep.
But 95-96, the bad thing about this series was, though, is Pat Riley is gone after this season.
Yep.
And who do they bring in, Chris?
They bring in old Donnie Nelson. I thought it was interesting. There was a lot of heat Pat Riley leaving because they felt like he was like this was on the verge of championship.
Yeah.
And there was a statement that was like, no, Miami Heat gave him parts of their franchise. Like,
plus, Guy got to be general manager, I think, too, and have a say in picking
everything.
who he wants. Yeah, like they gave him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Yes.
And they've acquired Alonzo Mourning at this point, Tim Hardaway. That's a hard job to say no to.
And I don't understand what the Knicks the front office was thinking with bringing in Don Nelson.
Who is a Hall of Fame coach, don't get me wrong, but just a terrible fit for the personality of what he was inheriting.
For the team brought in, they're not going to be changing who they are. They're not going to start playing the way he wants. You know what I mean? So he's brought in. Starks is immediately benched.
For Hubert Davis and then later Allen Houston. But Allen Houston, fantastic player.
I was going to say, they went out
later down the line. They went and got him, I think, from Detroit.
Yep.
But Starks is basically just an afterthought. 95-96. He's 12.6 points a game, 3.9 assists, but in 96-97, even though he's relegated to bench duty, he does win the NBA Sixth Man of the Year, which is awesome because by this point, Nelson's already gone.
Yep.
And you got Jeff Van Gundy.
Jeff.
Stan's the one that looks like Ron Jeremy.
Yeah, he does.
Jeff's the one that looks like an out-of-work Keebler elf.
Well, Jeff was the right fit for this.
Well, he was a Riley assistant, so it worked really well.
And he said with these types of players, this is something that I love, was a quote. He was like, you have to take the bad with the good. I understand sometimes they're going to get some technicals, but like literally we're out there grinding for every possession. I was like, yeah, that's literally what that Knicks in that era was about. So
96-97, career high, almost 37% three-point field goal percentage, 13.8 points a game. Off the bench, man.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Well, it's like we were saying, if Jordan wasn't around, this is one of those teams that might have gone because they were so deep. They literally, when you're playing second team, Starks is out there banging down threes. So,
well, the issue was 95-96, they lose to the Bulls in the playoffs, but 96-97, they end up advancing to the semifinals, and they run into their good friend Pat Riley in the Heat. And Starks plays a little bit of a role in this series.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is they're up 3-2, like they were again in that NBA Finals. But then a fight breaks out towards the end of Game 5.
And this is something that...
a very large fight.
Well, that they said, that Jeff said was, it's very much, you have to take the good with the bad, but in playoffs, you have to hold it together.
This was kind of a P.J. Brown, grandmama morning, kind of a fracas that just devolved into both benches clearing. Jeff Van Gundy holding on to Alonzo Mourning's leg. John Starks fighting people who was suspended for Game 7 of this series, and they end up losing and not getting a shot to play the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals that year. So 97-98, which is his last year with the New York Knickerbockers, 12.9 points a game, 2.7 assists. And they go to the playoffs, and who do they see again, Chris?
Well, it's crazy because this team is kind of on this tail end. So they see their buddies in the Pacers, and it's just not the same. And this is the kind of this end.
Well, it's almost an end, but when you think about it, the following year, they acquire a certain person for John Starks who takes them on this amazing run to the finals.
I was going to say, so it's the end of this with the Pat Riley team almost put together. And you're right, because he gets traded for somebody that kind of takes over, essentially this Knicks team. But
so in January 99, he's traded along, because remember, this is the lockout.
Yep.
For 98-99, he's traded with Chris Mills, former U of A player, Terry Cummings, and they, in return...
Former porn star.
Former porn Cummings. Oh, God, what a name. He was a good shooting guard, or a small forward for a while.
Yeah.
But he's at the tail end of his career at this point. But then, in return, the Knicks get someone who's fallen out of favor in Golden State for choking his coach, Latrell Sprewell.
They get Sprewell at what many people think is a bargain.
Well, I mean, they were just looking to get the hell rid of him. And granted, from stories I've heard, PJ Carlesimo is a dick, but you don't choke him.
Yeah, you don't choke him in front of everybody.
98-99, and this Warriors team that he's going to without Sprewell is complete and total dog shit. He's back in Golden State, but averaging 13.8 a game, 4.7 assists, and a, career high 3.7 rebounds.
Yeah.
So he's the best player on kind of a crappy team.
And he kind of becomes trade fodder at this point.
Yeah, he's more of a name trade fodder type deal.
And it's almost like his contract needs to be just kind of put out of its misery. And you're right, the Golden State is completely rebuilding. They're like, all right, we can't bank on Sprewell anymore. And they really did not get what they should, which was like picks or young.
Part of it is they were basically backed into a position where they needed to get rid of him regardless.
Immediate, yes.
So anybody with a sliver of value, they'll just take.
Yep.
99-2000, again, the Warriors are bad. 14.7 points a game, 5.2 assists. Limited to only 33 games, and then traded to the Bulls, oddly enough, to finish the season. Only played in 4. And then
to the Jazz.
Jazz for a couple of years. Is there at the tail end of the Stockton to Malone era.
Yep. Pretty much like their 12th man.
Coming off the bench, yeah. Playoff failures, of course, as with the Jazz. But that was a great career for a guy. He played 14 seasons in the league? 1 year of high school basketball, 1 year of major college basketball.
Yeah.
And
Safeway employee right before it, like
in jail, possibly could have gone away for a lot longer period than 5 days.
I want to say this: he has the John Starks Foundation, which helps kids who can't afford college because he couldn't afford college, and gives them scholarships and that kind of shit.
That guy's an American success story.
Yeah,
if you think about it.
He really is. I loved researching this because every time I was looking through it, I was like, "Damn, like it's ridiculous."
And it's not like he was getting these chances as he was coming up because he was some superstar. It was just like luck or fate came his way, and he was just like, I need to take advantage of this right now.
Yep.
And it's what made him such a fan favorite for the team, specifically the Knicks, that he played for, is people saw like, this guy is coming out every day and giving 100%.
Yeah.
Like he's leaving it all out on the floor. He finished his career as the Knicks' all-time leader in three-point field goals. And also that record that he set for 200 in a season, later broken by Dennis Scott and Steph Curry. But that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. For a guy who was bagging groceries, 12.9 points a game, 3.6 assists, 2.5 rebounds, one-time All-Star, 6th Man of the Year, and all second-team defense in 93. Anyone would kill for an NBA career like that.
Yeah, seriously.
So, yeah, John Starks, freaking amazing.
Yeah.